So where we last left off, Soichi, Sakumi, and Fumiko were traveling as a group together to try to figure out how they could possibly escape or get their collars off, only to find that the entrance was a dead end and there were signs that a game like this has been played at least once before, if not more. So reluctantly, they decided to just see if they can find a way to play along with the game, it seems, and we'll be continuing off from there. I mentioned this last time, but for those who played the original, you may notice that so far this remake has been pretty faithful to the original so far in the terms of events, pretty much. But this is the point where it's going to start deviating, so this is where you're going to start seeing the new things. Mostly deviates off from here. Of course, there'll be a few more similarities here and there, but this is pretty much the point where it deviates. Also, like I mentioned last time, betting is still underway. We are... Okay, sorry about that. We're ready to go now. So, as I was saying, last time we also began betting. AXS placed a bet for us with 50 chips on Sakumi, and we each took individual bets as well. So, and as I mentioned last time, I will allow betting from people up until the second confirmed death in this route. We've only got one so far, so until the next one, you can feel free to bet however you wish. So with that, let's get started on the next episode. Alright, let's continue. Soichi's group started moving fast from this point on. The three of them had already decided to head upstairs. Oops, sorry, 1 second. Originally, their plan had been to wait for the five they hadn't met yet. But now they knew that they had no choice but to trust in the rules. They couldn't stand still. If the rules were correct, then there was no more meaning to looking for an exit. After all, the outside was a forbidden area. Also, they didn't have much time. After all, everything starting from this floor up in this building would start becoming a forbidden area one after another. If they were going to wait, they would have to do it on the. It would be better to do it on the upper floors. And so they hurried until they heard a beep from their PDAs. What's that sound? It sounded like a cell phone ringtone. Mitsurugi, it's our PDAs again. It was the same beep they heard before. That last time it had been to signify new information. What's it say this time? Soichi took out his PDA. The last time it had rung was when that man had died. As such, he was a little nervous. 6 hours have passed since the start of the game. Thank you for waiting. The non-combat restriction has been lifted from all areas. Fumiko read off her own PDA. However, there are still designated non-combat areas in the building, so please rest assured, all players. That was what's read after the part where Fumika had read. Mitsurugi, since the non-combat restriction has been lifted, that means it wouldn't be odd if anyone attacked us at any time, would it? Sakumi asked timidly. Probably. Fumika answered instead of Soichi. When she did, Sakumi's face grew a little dim. Out of the ones that we've met already, I think that maybe Nagasawa or Tezuka would attack us. You're right. You're probably right. Those two have seemed like they've been up for this game ever since the beginning. Soichi remembered those two who had left them earlier. Tezuka's smirk and Nagasawa's odd sense of amusement. It wouldn't be strange at all if they either attacked them, from judging by that. But it didn't seem like they had anything that could pass as weapons, and we have the advantage in numbers. I don't think they'll come attacking us anytime soon. Fumika smiled at that part. It was just as she said. There was almost nothing in this building that could pass as a weapon. The only thing there really was by creating makeshift weapons by breaking off parts of the furniture that was left behind. Makeshift weapons, huh? Once he thought that, Soichi felt like he understood why all the furniture he'd seen so far had been broken. It wasn't because they'd broken with age, but because they'd been broken to use as weapons. Probably a lot. Just then, Soichi heard some kind of sound. What's that? Is it coming from up ahead in the hallway? Fumika looked at him quizzically. I think I heard some kind of sound. Soichi gestured for the two of them to be quiet, and then he carefully stepped down the hallway. When he did, he heard another sound. Must be right past that corner. It sounded like someone was talking. Soichi hid himself, and as he peeked around the corner. I see. So that means you're about the same age as my daughter, Nagisa. Oh, really? Nagisa smiled gently and nodded happily. That fluffy voice of hers strengthened the calm and gentle impression she gave off. The frilly clothes she wore looked good on her. I always thought of her as a child, but before I knew it, she grew up. I was really shocked when I heard that she'd gone out looking for work and moved and started living alone the other day. Hazuki smiled himself. Unlike the young Nagisa, Hazuki looked about in his early middle age. He was slender and also gave off the same kind of gentle impression as Nagisa. So from his look, he seemed like a kind father.
渚さんももう一人暮らしなのかい？
Are you living by yourself too, Nagisa?
はい、私も仕事の都合で一人で暮らしています。
Yes, I'm living alone because of my job. Nagisa smiled, and the ribbons on her head swayed. She's a very cute girl in a completely different way from my daughter. That was Hazuki's impression of Nagisa. She was about the same age as his daughter, but her cute clothes and speech and conduct were completely different, and not in a bad way. Hold on a second. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. That said, it almost gave him the impression that was the only outfit she owned.
でももう随分歩いたっていうのになかなか出口が見つからないな。
But I've been walking for quite a while now, yet we can't find the exit anywhere.
そうですね。
You're right. It's already been nearly 2 hours since Hazuki and Nagisa had met. They hadn't met anyone else in the time, and all they'd ever seen the whole time they walked were just more hallways and rooms. At first, Hazuki had noticed, thinking this had been some kind of a kidnapping or something. But after meeting Nagisa and nothing happening this whole time, that tension had been fading. Just then, their PDAs beeped. That was the only thing that had changed in these past 2 hours.
葉月さん、また鳴ってますよ。
Hazuki, it rang again, didn't it?
参ったな。
This is a problem. He took out his PDA, but, hold on a second. Okay, Hazuki took out his PDA, but simply stared at the screen, befuddled. It rung that way once before he'd met Nagisa, but since he wasn't good with devices like these, he had no idea what to do and left it alone.
渚さん、使い方はわからないのかい？
Nagisa, do you know how to use this?
すみません。私もこういうゲームは苦手で。
I'm sorry, I'm not good at these kind of games either. A girl with that outfit and devices like that most certainly didn't look like they went together.
前に娘に言われた時にもうちょっとやっておけばよかったかな。
Now I wish I'd listened more to my daughter when she talked about these. Hazuki had tried out a brain teaser game several years ago. If he'd been trying harder back then, he might have known how to use this device. He knew it was too late, but he regretted it all the same. 6 hours have passed since the start of the game. Thank you for waiting. Non-combat restriction has been lifted from all areas. That was what was written on the screen. There was more to the message than that, but since neither of them knew how to use the device, they couldn't scroll down, so they just stared befuddled at the screen. It was just then that Soichi's group called out to them.
なるほど。君たちの言っていることは分かったよ。
I see. I understand what you're telling me. Hazuki turned back after he examined the concrete wall past the shutter and nodded. After they introduced themselves, Soichi's group had told Hazuki and Nagisa everything that happened up to this point. Since they didn't know how to use their PDAs or met anyone, they had no idea what was going on. But even after they'd finished explaining, the two of them had trouble explaining such a ridiculous story. Trouble accepting such a ridiculous story. But since it was still nearby, Soichi's group took them to the entrance hall.
にわかには信じがたいが、事実であることを前提に動かざるを得ないようだね。
I admit this is all a lot to take in, but in the face of such proof, I suppose I have no choice but to accept it all. Hazuki's face was dark.
この首輪がね。
1 second. Alright, back. So these collars are... Hazuki stroked his own collar. Since he hadn't seen a corpse like the rest of them, he'd been somewhat dubious of the claim that the exit was completely shut off. But now he knew he had no choice but to accept it. Even if he hadn't believed all this stuff about the game, being locked in a huge building like this was already abnormal enough.
君たちの言っていることは本当だと分かっているし、出口のこのありさまを見ても僕にはまだ信じられないよ。
But even though I know you're telling me the truth, and now even though I've seen the entrance like this, I still can't believe it. Hazuki smiled wryly. Same here.
そうか、そうだったな。
Yeah, I suppose that makes sense. Hazuki had been a little wary of Soichi's group after hearing their absurd story, but now he realized he was a fool for feeling that way.